Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the program, Two Funny Astronauts. I'm your co-host, Garrett Reisman.
And I'm your other co-host, Mike Massimino. And remember, we're not saying we're funny people. We're just funny for astronauts.
It's a low bar.
A low bar. But today, we have part two of our other funny astronaut friend, Charlie Camarda. Charlie's with us again today. Charlie, thanks for joining us last time, and thanks for coming back for some more.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm glad to be here, Mike and Garrett.
That's great. You cracked us up the first time, so it's great to have you back, Charlie.
What's that?
Yeah, and Charlie, one of the things we were talking about last time is you've actually listened to our podcast. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. So you're able to comment on some of the stories that we've told that you were involved in. You talked a little bit about in our previous episode about when you had to dive in the water to blow up that life preserver unit when we were being trained water survival wise. But that was only one of the things that happened to us down there. You were there for when I had an interesting experience. You have a different perspective on what happened to me trying to go parasailing as part of that training.
Yeah.
I wonder if you might want to share that with us.
Yeah, I know you told the story, Mike, and it was very funny when you told it. I didn't know the details of you trying to run off of that flat top, and actually you weren't airborne before you actually reached the end of the flat top and you actually fell in. And so, we were in the other boat. We had already done our thing. They rescued us with the helicopter, yada, yada, yada. We were in the boat, and we hear on the intercom that, hey, astronaut down. His LPU had exploded, and I knew it was you. And so, unlike
How did you know?
That said, Charlie Camarda's in the pool drowning, somebody go get him, I'm going to go try to save myself. I was like really concerned about you, Mike. I was like, wow, if one of his life preservers is out, one more goes out, you're gone. No diver is going to find you. You're going to sink right to the bottom, and they're never going to find you. But it was actually a very, very serious situation. And I know the guy that was piloting our boat was streaming towards you to try to get you. And I remember watching that from our boat. You went down, and then they kept dragging you. You came up, you went down. And I don't know how many times you did that. But I thought it was great the way they came up with the call sign for you, Teabag. And I thought, man, what a great call sign, until now we fast forward 10 years, and now Garrett reminded you, if you go to the Urban Dictionary, Teabag means something totally different, and you definitely don't want that as a call sign, right, Garrett?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, no. And by the way, to our younger viewers who are looking up to astronauts and trying to be inspired, don't look that up.
Don't Teabag.
No.
And Mike,
just let that go.
But you want to know something? It was great because some of us got call signs from these. You always get your call sign for something you screw up, right? Something you mess up. Do you remember what my call sign was, Mike?
No, I don't remember you had. I was just about to ask you. I don't remember other than Charlie.
It's another word that you shouldn't look up on the Urban Dictionary. It was catfish. Because I spent a lot of time in the bottom of that swimming pool.
I thought it was because of your mustache. I thought it was your mustache.
Or for some other reasons. But one of the other things you mentioned, Mike, was land survival. And what's great about listening to your podcast is I have a terrible memory. And so it's great for me to remember some of this. So land survival, you explained how me and you and I think Caldero and a couple other people were trying to stuff our faces at a McDonald's because we figured if we're there for a day and a half, 2 days, we could live. As long as we could find water, we'll be alive. And so we were always trying to game the system, right? And I don't know if you were with us, Mike, but I think we went to an Army and Navy store or a camping goods store to try to, what else could we sneak in to help us survive?
Yeah, instead of because we knew better than us coming from New York. We knew better than to ask the instructors who would tell us, right? Just like you said, Yeah, Johnny Weissmuller there telling you how to go through your. No, I'm not paying attention to him. I know better, and that's what we like. Don't pay attention to these guys.
I don't know.
We're gonna figure this out on our own.
I don't know what it was like for Garrett growing up in, was it Parsippany, New Jersey?
Parsippany,
New Jersey, but.
Sounds
Everybody
nice.
in my neighborhood and probably Massimino's neighborhood, if there was a way to game the system or cheat, we were going to do it, you know? And so we went into this camping supply store, and I remember we're looking at...
Not in school, though, kids.
Don't do this.
Not in school. Don't cheat in school. That's no
It was a
good.
different time.
Different thing he's saying.
It was a different time and place. Ethics were a little more malleable back then.
No, we would never cheat on a
This was
test,
survival
kids.
training. This was survival training.
But
we
we were
needed to
cheating
survive.
for our
You gotta
life.
do what you gotta do.
We were cheating for our life, so it wasn't really cheating.
Yeah. Different.
Anyway, so we were looking for fish hooks, whatever, and anything that we could bring, a compass, a little tiny compass. And so I remembered, and I don't know if you watch Survivor, but they always pick the matches and the hatchet or something like that, something that you could never. I brought.
I got this. I got this image in my head right now of Charlie trying to navigate through the forest with like one of the little compasses you get out of a Cracker Jack box.
No.
Hey, look at this. Look what I brought.
I'm not going to tell that
with
story.
the fish. I think I'd say with the fish hook. Hey, I got a fish hook. Any fish?
Story, but listen, Garrett, make a note. Make a note of this. Charlie, compass, cold water survival. Have Dave Wolf come on your program and tell this other story.
That's another guy we got. Dave Wolf would be great.
Tell Dave Wolf. But anyway, what I took on this with me that I snuck into this program was something called a mag bar. You know what a mag bar is?
Well, I remember you getting it. I remember you getting this thing thinking it was going to be like the greatest thing ever.
Garrett?
Very important.
It's a solid piece of magnesium, right? And you can make little filings from it with a little knife, and it lights a fire really, really easy. I mean, I used to do pyrotechnics. I used to make bombs, not bombs, fireworks, rockets, not bombs, kids. Fireworks and rockets. Anyway,
Homeland Security. Are you listening?
I brought this mag.
Yeah, like more like Homer Hickam, less like Timothy McVeigh.
Yes. If it was a sliding scale between Homer, who's a good friend of mine, or Timothy McVeigh, closer to Homer Hickam. And
good.
Anyway, so we're around the campfire.
Homer listens to our podcast, so he'll kind of hear it.
Yeah.
He does. He's a big fan.
Wait,
no. He's been tweeting about it.
You know what? I need to be worried about my brand, right? I need to be worried about my brand. So I'm going to be.
Yes.
I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to be very careful how I word this. So we had this raging fire because I'm half a pyromaniac when I was a kid growing up in Queens, and so we had this raging campfire. Mike, I think you were asleep, Mike. I think you were in the tent. You were asleep. We're sitting around the campfire, me, Caldero, and Don Pettit. Don Pettit, the ultimate geek. We had the best geek in our class. I know you had Stan Love. He was good, but Don Pettit was the best. We're around this campfire, and I got this mag bar. And so, I used to make not explosives, pyrotechnics, fireworks, kids, fireworks. And I throw this mag bar into the fire. And I go, wait, watch when this lights up. And Don Pettit's going, that's not going to light up. That's not going to light up. No, it's going to light up. And Caldero's going, I bet it lights up. And Don Pettit's going, that's not going to light up. This thing caught fire. And it was like a searchlight outside. And it was bright like a Navy, like a flare went off in the jungle. And I looked at Don Pettit and said, I told you that was good. But anyway, Don Pettit's my favorite geek. I got tons of stories with Don Pettit. But one other story.
He's a super smart guy.
What's that?
Yeah,
Super
very
smart guy.
genius.
Oh, yeah,
genius.
Yeah, he is a
and a good guy. Great guy.
In so many different fields, too. I mean, he's in a wide variety of topics. He's very smart.
He's very smart. Not like me and Massimino. We're a couple of dummies. But anyway, no, I'm only kidding, kids. But anyway, the other thing with Don Pettit, And this is when I realized that Don Pettit was a unique individual, right? Do you remember, and Mike, you talked about this, how we were trying to catch little animals, they were teaching us how to make snares, how to make traps. There's nothing out there.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
No, that's why going to McDonald's was a good bet.
It was definitely a good thing. So me and Don Pettit are making a snare, right? I was a Boy Scout. Luckily, Don Pettit was an Eagle Scout. He was like Order of the Palms, like I told you earlier, right? So we're making a snare, and so I see
Order
this.
of the Palms? Is that a thing?
A snare?
No, Order of the Palms.
I think it is.
It sounds like it. Are you sure?
Is that it?
I think Bill Shepperson.
I think Bill
Shepperson was an Order of the Palms. If I remember correctly.
Isn't that some level you get to in Scientology?
Well, I think the Boy Scouts had branched off into something that was very close to Scientology, very close to a spiritual Billy Jack kind of thing. But anyway, now I know you don't know who Billy Jack was.
Order of the Palms. I'm going to
look that up.
Billy Jack. How do we get on that? I can't even see my phone to Google it because I'm crying.
Anyway, forget
You're killing me.
Order of the Palms.
Order of the Palms.
Look it up later, Mike.
I'm looking at what?
Anyway.
I can't wait.
So me and Don Pettit are making
Order
this
of the
snare.
Palms.
We're making this snare. And I see this nice, long, young tree. I take this tree. Is it a real thing, Mike?
Yeah.
It says here, Order of the Palms is an order of knighthood of France for academics.
It was also,
I don't know, maybe.
They use that in the Boy Scouts.
Let me look at Boy Scouts.
Ask Philippe Corinne about that. Maybe it was the French Boy Scouts.
It's called Eagle Palms.
Eagle Palms.
I think that's what it is. I think after you become an eagle, that's what I kind of remember. There were things you could add, like
Palms, Order of the Palms, Bill Shepperson. Would you let me tell the story, Mike? Would you let me tell the story?
Go ahead.
Because
I was going to let it go. Garrett started asking about. I was like, okay, that's a whole. That'll derail us for about an hour. And Garrett spoke about the Order of the Palms.
I take the tree, I bend it over. The tree is a huge tree, but it's young, and I pull this thing over, and Don Pettit has this special little snare trap that he has with a trigger mechanism. The thing is like shaking. There's so much tension in it, right? And, the guys are coming over with the clipboard, kind of looking around, giving us grades, right? And he spots what me and Don Pettit did, and he goes, oh, man, I have to test this out. And he goes down there with his little pen, and he springs the trigger, and this thing just, like, flies. If a little animal ever put its head in that snare, it would have been like an episode of Monty Python. It would have ripped the head right off the little critter. But anyway, I think I got good marks. We got good marks because I had Don Pettit as my partner for that.
He was good out there in the field. He certainly was.
He's a handy guy.
With the Order of the Palms or whatever he had.
Order of the Palms, Eagle Palms, Order of the Palms,
Eagle Palms.
Bill Shepperson. What are you going to do? You're going to look up everything I say right now, Mike?
No.
Come on. It's all good.
No. Man.
So let's go to Knowles, right? National Outdoor
Yeah, we've talked about that
School.
too.
Right? Because I don't know, did you have to do that, Garrett? I know you did the underwater stuff. Did you do Knowles?
Have to. You kidding me? I would have signed up for like 10 more if they were. I know. I loved it. Those things were. I love doing this.
I loved it, right? But you have to remember now.
It was great.
This is like me and Mike are from New York. Yeah, we were in the Boy Scouts. Yeah, we did some camping, but this was the advanced level of the Boy Scouts, and it was climbing. We were in a slot canyon in Utah. Remember, Mike? Flash floods.
Oh, yeah.
It was like the worst.
Oh, yeah.
The worst conditions possible. We went through rain, sleet, snow. It was cold. It was hot. The only thing we didn't have was like a tornado and a hurricane, but everything else we had in those 7 days.
We got that in Texas. We didn't need to get trained on that. We had those things in Texas.
We got hurricanes in Texas. But I remember, I don't know why I was selected to be on this trip, Mike. I know that it was you and your 3 EVA astronauts. It was me. It was Brew.
Yeah.
Was it
and
Poindexter?
Dex.
Poindexter
What
was
happened?
there.
Yeah, this is I remember how this happened. That typically crews would go on these trips together for like team building, and we were assigned the spacewalkers for our crew. There were 4 of us. We were assigned early, about 6-8 months or so before they would give us a pilot commander and a flight engineer. So John Grunsfeld, especially, who was our lead spacewalker, I was a rookie. I'm trying to follow along, keep up or whatever. But John was like, we got to go do a Knowles trip together, the 4 of us. And I go, we don't have a command. He goes, no, 4 of us, they'll give us 3 other guys. So I remember, this is what I remember, Charlie. Me, you, and Brew used to go to the same church whenever we went to church.
Oh, we always
But I remember we were outside of St. Clair. We went to church. We need all the help we can get. So we were outside. I remember it was after church, and the 3 of us were talking, and we were saying how, I go, I'm going on this Knowles trip coming up, and there's only 4 of us. We need more guys. And you 2 guys are like, we should go. So I said, I'm going to go. And Bruce goes, I'll go. So you 2 guys, and then we said we needed another guy, and someone recruited Dex. I think it might have been Brew, but we convinced him. But that's what it was. I think you guys sort of, because we were going, we thought it'd be fun. You guys volunteered to go.
Thank God we brought Dex, because he was one of the few people that knew what the hell he was doing. I think he saved you from falling off the damn mountain several times.
He was good, yeah. And he also could tell the difference between a bear and a mountain lion or whatever, a mountain goat from the airport.
Brew was amazing.
He knew his animals.
Brew was amazing. Dex was amazing. But I knew that before I was getting ready to go on this trip, right? I was like a typical Boy Scout. I was thinking of everything that could possibly go wrong. And, the dentists in the astronaut flight clinic, they're good, but maybe they didn't have all the best materials, right? And so I would go there for a crown, and the crown would fall out. And sometimes I'd almost swallow the thing, and I go back and I go, Dean, what the hell kind of glue are you using in this thing, right? So I said, you know what? I'm going to go on this friggin' trip. I want to bring some glue with me. So I went to the dentist. I said, give me some glue, because God forbid my crown comes out. I want to be able to put it back in my mouth, right? I don't want to go the whole time with the. Do you remember this, Massimino? You remember this?
Oh yeah. Yes. I didn't remember you went and took the glue on your own. I thought it was like in a med kit or something. No. So you got a magnesium bar and glue. This is what I'm going.
I think where you really went wrong. I remember seeing a picture of this. The glue said Elmer's on the side.
It was not the best glue. It was not the best.
It was like crazy glue or something.
And so we're going out there. We're putzing around out there in the slot canyons, and lo and behold, my crown comes out, and it falls out, and it's in a mud puddle. It's in a mud puddle, and I'm looking at Lenahan. I'm looking at this jabroni over here, Massimino, and I'm going, oh man, I lost it. And I'm like, I put my hand down there in the mud puddle. And I found it. I go, look, I found it. And I go, and look, I have the glue. And I'm going, and I'm putting the glue on the tooth. And I go, here, Mass, put this tooth in my mouth. And I open up my mouth. And what does my good friend Mass? And he goes, I can't do that. I can't do that. He goes, he wouldn't even help me put the tooth in my mouth. Luckily, we had Lenahan. That was
Lenahan was the guy to do it.
He was a veterinarian. Was a veterinarian. He could take care of putting teeth back in the dog's mouth, I guess. So he helped me out.
Well, I remember you making me. You're like, hey, Mike, look at my mouth. I go, what? And he goes, what do you see? And you see. And all I saw, it was like a wire, like a post sticking up out of your gum where there should have been a tooth. And I go, there's a thing sticking up, like a post sticking up out of your mouth. I lost my crown.
Supposed to glue it to that. So you got to understand.
Linehan was more qualified than I was for that.
You got to understand, Garrett, this is like the second experience I had with my good friend Mike Massimino, right? And I'm thinking to myself, do I ever want to be on a mission with this guy? Can I trust this guy? Am I going to go out on an EVA and I'm going to say, Mike, can you help me out? No, I'm not going to do that.
Well, wait a minute.
No,
when you were down at the bottom of that pool, like I said, if I would have jumped in, there would have been 2 of them. I got the guy.
Yeah,
when you needed the tooth, I would have put that back in your head. I got Linehan to help you. I know who to
in
call.
Mass's defense, in both cases, there were very highly qualified people standing by.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right? Why would he jump in?
Exactly.
Mike,
let the
Mike, you picked the perfect wingman. You picked the perfect wingman. Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you, Garrett.
First, for all the kiddies out there, believe me, if I ever had the opportunity to fly again, I would definitely trust my life to Mike Massimino and Garrett Reisman right now. Okay? All right. Can we move on now? Can we move on?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Because I'm not through with Knowles, right? And you know I have a problem listening when I'm in trouble. Do you remember this, Mike, when they were teaching us how to climb a mountain, right?
That I remember.
You remember this story, right? Yeah. Because we were not really good at climbing mountains. I was in the Boy Scouts. We used to take a trail up the mountain. But this mountain was kind of steep, right? It was kind of steep. And in order to get...
It's called a cliff.
It was called a cliff. And in order to get up this mountain, you know, they told us you had to keep your shoelaces pretty loose because you wanted your ankle to basically move around. You wanted to plant your foot straight on the ground, and you wanted to stand up, like push yourself away from the mountain so that you could stand up and put enough weight on that large surface area of your foot so that you wouldn't slide off the mountain, right? So once again, I didn't trust this guy. I didn't listen, right? And Mike is standing next to me again. I got to go first. He says, okay, come on, climb up that mountain. And so I'm looking at this mountain. The first thing I do is I lean into the mountain and I start clawing my way up the side of this mountain. And I'm like, rocks are coming down. I'm clawing my way up to the top. I get up to the top of this hill. I got scratches all over me. I'm bleeding. I look down the hill, and the guy, the trainer down below, looks at Mike Massimino and the rest of the guys. He says, "Don't do that." He said, "Don't do that." So I helped you, Mike. I helped you out.
You did. It was always good. It was always good to watch someone else do it first.
But then there was the other. There was the other time that we had to rappel down the cliff.
Yeah.
And what did you do, Mike? Remember they said when you're rappelling down, you have to lean away and just walk down like perpendicular to the
right.
What did you do? Well, the thing,
if you're talking about where I messed up, if you're talking about where I messed up, Charlie, I got hurt, actually. I think what it was is they told us to keep your hand.
Mike, don't try to make me feel bad because now you're saying you got hurt. You just scratched your hand.
I was bleeding, Charlie. It was blood.
All right.
Anyway, no, what happened was, it was like Charlie's saying, exactly. No, the instructor's saying something. I'm like, you're out of your mind. I'm not paying attention to you. But what he said was that you have one, I think it was one hand on the controller to let yourself go down the mountain, right? And your other hand, you want to keep off the control. You don't want to use your other hand. If you put your hand, if you try to grab the rope with the hand, it'll bring you into the mountain. It'll slam you into the cliff. So I'm like, okay, fine. So as we're going down here, I think I might have paid attention to that rule for about 11 seconds. And then I start moving around, and my impulse was to grab that rope, and I did it, and it slammed me into the mountain. And I had a bad and bare knuckles and ran right into the mountain. And I was like, okay, I guess he was right. And then I got down, but I did the wrong thing and smacked into that mountain. And then Linehan had to wrap up, our veterinarian had to wrap up my hand. But then I remember, like you said, you learn from the guy in front of you. The guy after me was Brew. And Brew looked like he was riding one of those rodeo guys with the hand like this. He had his hand like out here. He's going like this, like he's not letting that happen again. He had his hand like this hand doesn't even exist anymore. It's back here. He's looking.
No. I got this reminder. I got to jump in with a quick story about Bob Benken. Can I interrupt for a sec? Bob Benken.
Okay.
Bob Benken, who was on the first SpaceX launch just almost exactly a year ago today. He and I were grad students at Caltech together. So we had offices like right across the hall from each other. And I was more experienced than you guys were for this Knowles stuff. I knew how to rappel. I was doing like a bunch of rock climbing and canyoneering and things. And we were doing this canyoneering thing at Caltech with some of the professors. And one day we invited Bob along. and he had never done this before. But we told him, like, don't let go with that brake hand, and don't grab the rope with the other hand, just like you're saying.
Yeah.
We gave him the same lesson. And he's going over his first rappel. And he tells the story a little bit differently. But he blames me for I set up the rappel. I anchored the rope, and he says that I didn't do that right, which he might have a point. But anyway, the important thing is he goes over, and he slips. His feet come out from under him. And all I know is I see Bob going over this cliff, and all of a sudden I just see him, whoop, and he's gone. And I scramble over to the side of my stomach, and I'm peering over the edge of this cliff, and I see Bob's butt. All I can see is his butt up in the air. He's upside down.
Oh man!
But he's holding on to the rope like he was instructed. He was really good at following instructions.
Yeah.
So he was holding on to that rope, and he was safe. But he's upside down, and I just staring into Bob's big butt, and I'm just laughing my head off because it was and he's like, so we got him down, and then he told this story during his astronaut interview.
Really?
With the board. They said, did anything terrifying ever happen to you? And he's like, yes, I once went canyoneering with Reese. And there I am holding on for my dear life, and he's just laughing at me, which is true. And by the way, he never came on another trip with us again. I don't know why, but that was
maybe that's what got him selected, though. They like that story.
Well,
I think
if he could survive that with you,
I contributed.
Yeah, it was good.
That's right.
I was gonna tell a couple more of those Knoll stories.
Yeah,
which had another crew member, but you just mentioned something, Garrett, that's going to lead me to another story.
Perfect.
Which was the interview question. You said that Bob Benkin said, "Did you ever have a near-death experience?" And this was one of the questions. Remember, Mass? Did they ask you that?
Yep.
Did you ever have a near-death experience? Right?
I don't remember them asking me that.
They didn't ask you that?
Oh, you're talking about the shrinks or in the interview?
The shrinks during the interview.
Yeah. No, the interview we had the selection board interview where where'd you go to school? And then you had the shrinks asking you. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So I'm going to tell my interview story, right? Because I did not know that they were going to ask us this, right? We had a full day of psychological evaluation.
Yeah, I said we shouldn't really call them shrinks. They were the psychological evaluators, or
it was either psychiatrist or psychologist.
Yeah,
not
all
shrinks,
right,
boys and girls. Don't call them shrinks.
No.
Yeah,
okay, go ahead. Don't worry, we smoothed it over. We're covered. Go ahead.
Anyway, after these grueling written tests for your psychological exam, you get grilled by not one, but two psychologists or psychiatrists, right? And I had a man and a woman. and they looked at me and they said, "Charlie, did you ever have any near-death experiences?" And I said, I grew up in Queens, New York. I grew up in Ozone Park. I used to take the A train through Bed-Stuy for 4 years. I said, how much time do you two guys have? And they said, well, just tell us one. So I had to bypass all the times I almost drowned in Rockaway or the times I got mugged on the subway. And I said, okay, well, I'll tell a story. And the story was I had been dating this girl from New York for like 7 years off and on. Then I moved to Virginia to work for NASA, and we were still seeing each other kind of off and on. I was in New York, grew up in Ozone Park, right next to Howard Beach, home of the Goodfellas crew, John Gotti and a bunch of made men over there in Howard Beach. And we were going to this diner. And she's going in. She's got a little Chevy Vega. She's pulling into the diner. And this car starts backing up. And I said, beep the horn. He's going to hit you. She beeps the horn. This guy's driving a Lincoln Continental. This guy comes out. He's got gold chains coming down to here. He's got an Italian knit shirt. And he starts yelling and screaming at me. And he's cursing at me. And it's like I pretend to kind of get out of the car, but I was waiting for her to hold me back a little bit. And then she held me back. And that's good, because this guy, I definitely knew that this guy was definitely connected in the neighborhood. Ooh. Garrett, and I said, I ain't getting out of the car if I absolutely don't have to. So she backs up the car. We're going away. And this guy gets really, he starts getting really indecent. He starts like grabbing his crotch and he starts yelling and cursing at us. And so I just lost it. I start going crazy. I start yelling and screaming at him. So he jumps in his.
That's not a good. That's not a good strategy.
Yeah,
NASA
psychiatrists like this sort of stuff. This is good.
Well, I just thought it was in very bad taste, Garrett, that he was cursing in front of my girlfriend, and so I got really upset, and so the guy starts chasing her in his Lincoln Continental, and I'm screaming at my girlfriend to pull over the car because I want to get out. This guy's actually trying to hit her car on the highway. And I'm going crazy. I'm yelling and screaming. I'm in the passenger side. I'm not driving. I'm looking for weapons inside the car or anything. I'm leaning out the window. I'm throwing stuff. I drew like a paddle at this guy, and it just pissed him off more. And he cuts off her car.
You threw a what? A paddle ball?
You didn't play paddle ball in Parsippany, New Jersey?
Think.
My dad used to play paddle ball all the time.
1970s.
Yeah, no, I know what that is.
1970s New York. Lincoln Continental.
Thank you.
It was a paddle ball was a very, very popular.
It was
1970s New York.
Fact, I almost beat Howie Hammer in a paddleball game, but that's another story. He cuts off her car. Cuts her off, and he goes on the Cloverleaf onto the Belt Parkway. Now we're on a major highway, right, going towards the Verrazano Bridge, and he rams into her car.
Whoa.
He crashes his car into the Chevy Vega. We're in the first two lanes of the Belt Parkway. I'm trying to get out of the car. He comes running over. He opens the door. He grabs me by the hair, and he hits me with an uppercut. He hits me. He stands me up. I hit him with a right cross, and this was like a big guy. It's I hit him with a right cross, and his head went like that, and then he grabs me. Right now, this isn't Virginia. In New York, on a highway, if people are pulled over the side of the road, they don't look; they just keep going. So we're in the first two lanes. We're in the first two lanes. This guy grabs me by my shirt and goes to throw me into the one lane that's moving at like 60 miles an hour. It was at that point I realized that this guy is really trying to kill me. So I grab his shirt, I drop my CG to the ground, and I rip his shirt off. We're like rolling around fighting. Finally, he gets up, goes in the trunk of his Lincoln Continental. He gets out a jack. A big jack, like 3.5 foot jack, and he starts walking towards me like he's going to hit me with it. And my girlfriend is like pulling me, like, Charlie, come on, he's going to hit you with that. I said, he's not going to hit me with that, Jack. He's not going to. So a cop car pulls up. The cop car pulls up, stops, and I said, hey, arrest this guy. This guy tried to kill me. And the cop basically leans over to me and says, Charlie, you don't want to mess with this guy. This guy's under indictment. He's going to be standing trial in a little bit. This guy's connected. You don't want to do this. I said, but this guy tried to kill me. He said, this guy looks worse than you. You got his shirt ripped off. I didn't have a scratch on me. And so I'm telling this story, to these psychiatrists. And then I look up and I look at them. And they're both looking at me with their mouth open. And I'm like, oh, crap, maybe I shouldn't have told this story. But, I mean, I figured that these two psychiatrists had just heard test pilots that were flying a Desert Storm, Iraq, or flying all different kinds of experimental airplanes. God knows what stories they told. But they were totally in shock. And the whole rest of the interview,
Mass and I are in shock right now. Just
that's unbelievable.
It's a shocking story.
I never told you that.
I mean, come on, most people. You're right. Most people go in for their astronaut interview and they ask them, "Did you ever have like a near-death experience?" And they're like, "Well, yes, once I was flying in the weather and had a complete electrical failure," or like, "Yeah, I was climbing Mount Everest and we're running low on oxygen." And then Charlie's like, "Yeah, there's one time I went to a diner."
And they almost got killed by a guy in the mafia. But other than that, I don't want to repeat his name because I think his son just got out of jail.
Yeah, no, don't say any name.
Yeah, let's just
leave that name out.
Don't say anything.
No name. Yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, it worked. Maybe you scared him. Maybe that worked. You got in.
Mike, I swear to God, there are so many so many stories during that interview class where I thought, I don't know, they're never going to select me. I couldn't.
Maybe it was like Bill Shepherdson with.
That's what I'm thinking.
Maybe they hear your stories. They're so scared of you. They're like, we got to hire him because we don't want to piss him off.
Oh, do we have time for one more story?
I'm going to check with our producer. We do. We have time for one more. We have time.
All right, one more.
In this episode, we may have
Charlie.
to have you come back again, Charlie. But
All right.
Hit us.
I'll come back. I got.
No, but tell us
This
the
is
story.
another because. All right, we'll do this. We'll do the rappel. No, let's do this one. I think this one, because Mike Massimino is going to tell this story. I'm only going to show the picture, and then Mike, I want you to tell this story.
All right, so the picture is, I can't see that picture, Charlie. Who's in there? Is that me in there?
It's my mom and dad.
Oh my
and
gosh, it's Bocelli.
Andre Bocelli.
Oh my gosh. Nah, we need a lot of time for this one, but let's do it anyway.
Do it,
All
Mike.
right, so
Mike, you tell this story so
okay,
Gary
so
can hear it.
but Charlie, we're gonna have to tell this thing together. All right.
All right.
This
You
is
go
not going to
ahead.
be a 5-minute deal here. I don't know what we're going to do about this. Jason will figure it out.
Just let it go.
All right, so here we go.
Do it.
So this is the way I remember,
hear this
Charlie.
now.
I remember you coming over my house. Charlie and I lived very close to each other in Clear Lake in Houston, and I remember when I first arrived in. Just to give a little background here, when I first arrived in Houston I lived in Houston previously, and I was teaching at Georgia Tech, and now we moved back, and but I came back to work as an astronaut, and I remember going to Ellington Field. Before our first day of work, we had to go pick up our stuff, like some of our flight suits and other things. If you were in there early, you could get that. So I went by there to get that stuff, and I remember the guy who gave us our stuff was this guy Sarge. Do you remember that guy, fellas? The guy named Sarge was, with his mustache. He was like a Vietnam guy. The guy, the equipment guy, one of the equipment guys. And he goes, you from New York? And I go, yeah. He goes, you got to meet this guy that was in here yesterday, Charlie Camarda. You got to find. So I kept hearing, and everywhere I would go, like no matter where it was, you got to meet this guy, Charlie Camarda. So Charlie lives around the corner, and I remember going to knocking on Charlie's door before we started working. This is before we like a week. We got there like a week or two early before we had to report. And Charlie comes up. He's wearing the white Italian T-shirt thing, and he flip flops, and so I was like, I was back in the neighborhood in New York. This is great. What a bonus. I thought being an astronaut was going to be fun. I never thought this was going to happen. So Charlie, we'd go over each other's houses and say hi. Call for each other, like you said when you were. It was like when we were kids. What are you doing? So we'd have to get our mother's permission to hang out. So anyway, Charlie and I lived near each other because that kills all things. Because I thought this is what I remember. I remember you telling me that you didn't.
I knew Andrew Bocelli was blind.
Oh, okay,
Bocelli
all right.
was blind.
All right. So anyway, Bocelli is coming in for a tour, right? And it's coming in for a tour of the Johnson Space Center. And they get like anyone who was Italian or a Italian American to help out with the tour because he's an Italian guy. So they had like Paolo Nespoli and Umberto Guidoni, who were Italian astronauts, and then they bring in me and Charlie. And I remember, Charlie, you coming over my house and turning around the corner and say, "We got to give this guy a tour tomorrow." And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, what are we going to show him?" I go, "I don't know what we're going to show him the space shuttle, whatever they tell us to show him. We'll tell him." And he goes, "Well, Mike, Bocelli can't see." And I'm like, "Yeah, And so we should bring things for him to touch. And I go, "I don't know, Charlie. I think we should just, let's just give him the tour. His kids are going to be there." And Charlie's like, "No, we got to bring him things. I'm going to bring him some tiles. I'm going to bring him some shuttle tiles so he can touch." All right, so that's the shuttle tiles. So you see, people can't see this, but it's if you're only listening. But the shuttle tile has what's that black stuff on the top of the tile, Charlie?
That's a high emissivity coating.
Okay, so they've got a black coating on the top, but below it is, what is that stuff? Is that asbestos? What is that stuff?
It's silica. It's a silica tile.
Yeah.
It's a fibrous silica tile that's sintered together.
Right.
And it basically feels like styrofoam. It's like the weight of it's like the weight in
very light material, but it's also very chalky. So this stuff will get, it can get it's like a powder if you start touching it. So this is what Charlie brings in for this guy to touch. So we're there in our flight suits, and Paolo's there, and Bocelli didn't really speak much English, or at least he was going with Italian. He had a translator there, and Paolo and Umberto were able to speak to him in Italian, and Charlie and I getting by with our English, I guess, as best we could. And I remember him being so thrilled that he was in the Space Shuttle, and we're showing him around the Space Shuttle, and he thought that was wonderful. His kids were there, and his wife was there, and his business manager, entourage, all these people are there. So then Charlie is like looking for an opportunity, from what I remember, to show Bocelli these tiles, these shuttle tiles.
Well,
and,
I wanted him to feel, because we were explaining to him what the Space Shuttle is, and it's thousands of these tiles underneath the Space Shuttle. I thought it would be really cool for him to feel how light they were, but I had it kind of in a plastic bag, right? But he took it out of the bag, and he's handling it.
And
right?
just to give you an idea, if I can interject some detail here, Charlie and Bocelli are now off on a bench underneath the shuttle mock-up, by themselves, more or less. Bocelli is dressed all in black, like Johnny Cash. He's got black shirt.
Oh, no.
He's got black pants. And to go with it, he's got black hair and a black beard. He's got, right?
I see where this is
going.
going.
And then they're sitting, and he doesn't speak. I mean, I think he understands English, but the communication I thought might have been an issue going on there too. Is Charlie's giving him instructions, and Bocelli's doing his best, but it's basically the two of them. Like, Bocelli will be fine with this nice astronaut for a few minutes, and then what happens, Charlie?
Well, he took it out of the bag, and you have this silica down there, and like Mike said, it's like chalk. The only problem is it's like chalk, but you can't touch it. You have to use gloves because they're very fine, nanoparticles. And if you get them all over your hands, you definitely don't want to touch your face or your eyes. But anyway, to make a long story short, we came back from where we were, and I was explaining to see how light it is. Bocelli has all white chalk marks all over his black.
He started playing like he was Tommy Lasorda, giving his signs at third base. He just started touching. I don't know what it was, but he starts like touching all over, and the powder's going up, and it looks like a cloud around the poor guy, and he's getting all this stuff all over.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So Charlie's like, no, don't do, no, that, and meanwhile, this is going on.
Anyway, so it was a little bit of a disaster. I thought I would make it, he'd have that tactile, he'd get that feel, it's light. But the poor guy had all chalk all over him. I don't know if he was getting pictures taken any other time during that day, but he was a mess.
Well, somebody, and Bocelli, people, I think most people know who he is, but he at the time he was at the height of his popularity, really. I know he's still very popular, of course. People love him, but he had the hit record had come out, and it was this huge international, worldwide star, and this is what happens to the poor guy, and someone in his group. This is what I remember, Charlie. Someone, whether it was his manager or his wife or someone, saw this happening, and started no, and and runs at him, and they take him away to get cleaned up. And, to help him out there. And Charlie's like, this is what I remember, Charlie. You're sitting there with your tile, and you're kind of with this befuddled look on your face because you were so earnest. I remember the night before when you were talking about doing this, you were so excited about doing this show and tell with Bocelli and what you were going to teach him. And so you were so earnest about it. And it ended up being, I don't know how we're describing it, but it was a disaster. It was a complete disaster. He had all this white stuff all over himself. People are yelling, what did you do to the poor guy? What's the matter with you? And Charlie's just like, oh, my God, what happened? After this, all these good intentions, this happens. And I look at Charlie. This is what I remember, Charlie, going up to you and saying, hey, Charlie, do you think you learned anything? And Charlie looks up at me. And says, yeah, never trust a New Yorker. This is what I remember. This is what I remember from the whole thing. But that was Bocelli. But what happened? The photo. Because the photo you showed that not everybody who's listening can see, unless they're on YouTube, is Bocelli with Jack and Ray Camarda, your parents, and we can tell stories about that. Remember when your parents
Oh,
and
my
my
God,
parents would get together? That's a whole nother story. But your parents were there for this Bocelli thing.
Save that for
That's
another
like
episode,
a whole
yeah.
season, for God's sakes. Come
Oh,
on.
my gosh. Yeah. Go ahead. So what
Anyway.
happened there with your parents? They came to the tour?
Well, no, they just happened to be, because I was a single parent. Me and Chelsea, I had an 8.5-year-old daughter. So every now and then my parents would come down, help me out a little bit. But they happened to be there, and I thought this was, my mother and father loved Andre Bocelli. Yeah, so they got to go see him. Yeah. It was a great event. We got to meet his family. Unfortunately, I messed up his clothes a little bit.
To follow up on that, I hadn't thought about this for a while, but to follow up on that one, after that was before either of us flew. That was early 2000s or something. And
kind of amazing we flew.
Kind of amazing. I have all these shenanigans. But after I flew my first flight, we were invited to go to Italy and do some post-flight stuff in Italy. And there was a translator with us. This very nice young woman was with us who was a translator to help us understand what was happening there. And she said she also worked she's always working with Andre Bocelli. And I go, no kidding. When he was in Italy anyway, I got to help. And I told her the story, what happened, and she calls him on the phone. She gets the guy on, because she was, I guess she worked with him all the time, and she's talking to him. And he was very nice on the phone. He said, yes, he remembered. It was wonderful. So he loved whatever thing that happened. What you did. You don't worry about what happened with it. It was just a small little part of it for him. He really enjoyed.
Did he say anything about me, Mike? Did he say
he really appreciated all of us showing him around? That's the way he remembered it. So, and with him and his family. So I think it's okay. I was like, don't tell him. And he goes, don't tell him it's me. He goes, no, it was all right. We were all in the clear.
Well, luckily,
we're all in the clear. He's a nice guy.
He couldn't tell how badly we messed him up.
Yeah.
Oh, you think they didn't tell him? Come on!
No, I think he knew what
I'm sure
happened.
he's being all nasty on the phone. I'm sure he's thinking in his head, "Oh yeah, that's the guy that covered me in the carcinogenic dust."
Yeah, God knows. Lucky thing NASA safety wasn't there.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
That's funny.
All right, guys, we probably should wrap this one up.
So Charlie, this was
good.
great. We'd love to have you come back for some more if you can stand it at some point. But this was really great to have a couple episodes with you. Anything else you wanted? Garrett remembered last time to mention. What can we tell our listeners, both of them who are listening, which maybe whoever.
Actually, it's one fewer.
Yeah, so at least we have Garrett's mom there.
Now we're down to only one.
That's your mom.
My mom.
I have one other.
Go.
If I could,
But you know what, Charlie, my mom is very interested in studying about high performing teams.
Really?
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Oh no, we could talk about high performing
Because she's
teams.
listening.
No, but I tell you that's for another episode, because a lot of what I did with Don Pettit, because we were on the return to flight crew, and I was actually working hard with teams trying to figure out how do we solve the problem, how do we identify what caused the problem, and then how do we repair the wing leading edge in orbit if we got hit with debris. And so a lot of what we did in Don Pettit's garage, and that's a whole nother set of episodes in Don Pettit's garage, but a lot of what we did, we try things, we fail, and we basically solved the problem that NASA couldn't solve. And we did things like, we invented, this technique for repairing the wing leading edge using a patch, but making them flexible and thin. We did things like creating a tool to drill and tap the wing leading edge. But what I realized was that this was a good opportunity. Imagine if we had a Don Pettit garage and we could have hundreds of thousands of students come and try to solve problems that NASA couldn't solve. And so I started an Epic Education Foundation. We started an Epic Challenge program working with students around the world now. And we're actually solving problems that NASA can't solve. And we're getting students excited about the fun of science. I mean, we all got into it because we thought it was cool. And we try things, we fail, we go in the laboratory, we test things to failure, and we have to let kids do that. I mean, that's the fun of what made what we do so much fun and attracts kids to science and math. And so that's what I'm dedicating, a lot of my time with right now.
That's great stuff.
I know you were doing that. I remember even at NASA, you were getting involved with education big time, and it's great that you're continuing all that. It's important stuff.
And I mean, both of you guys are too, right? You both teach. Garrett, you're still at USC.
USC.
USC. Not University of California.
Not UC Berkeley.
Irvine, it was USC.
Yeah. No.
And Mike, you're at Columbia.
I'm still at Columbia.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. Enjoying that. Mm-hmm. So, yes.
We're all educators, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is kind of terrifying when you think.
Did you learn anything, boys and girls, in this podcast? Because we're educators.
I hope my students aren't watching these podcasts. That's going to be, if this comes back in the classroom, I got big problems. Huh?
All right, I think we need to wrap it. I guess, but there's been so much fun talking with Charlie, and of course, so with Garrett for me, and I hope people enjoyed listening. So go ahead, Garrett and Charlie, take the last word.
Likewise, it was super fun.
No, thanks a lot, Mike and Garrett. I think you guys are doing a great job, and I see lots of opportunities for you guys.
Cool. Well, thank you to everybody listening, all two of you, and please, both of you, hit the like and subscribe button and help us out. That's more important than listening, right?
Yeah, we don't answer it. We just answer the like and subscribe. Don't worry about listening. That's secondary. But hope you listen and enjoy it too.
Give us a good rating. The listening is optional. All right, thank you very much.
Take it easy, guys.
See you next time.